you know, and they were able to defeat Florida. Welcome to another episode of Flexx FM Sports Desk with yours truly, Nigel Blair. Today is another episode of our great sports show here. My co-host will be joining me later, Coach Brown, of course. But as usual, we normally start out with reviewing last week's game in the Casa League. And I tell you, we had some great games over the weekend and on Wednesday. We started off on Wednesday with the Sharks of Palm Beach going up against the Young Lauderhill Lions. And that game ended up with the Sharks 4 and the Lions 0. Now the Lions has been a new team in the league and they're very young. But I tell you, even though the score doesn't depict how the game went, these are some great young players that are going to change. I think it's going to change the future of how we look at the young players in the Casa League. Great job for the Young Lions, even though they went down 4-0 against the Palm Beach Sharks. Well experienced team, and actually the Sharks are sitting on top of the Casa League in the Super League. Then on Saturday we had 3 phenomenal games. We had 2 knockout games in the Masters and 1 Super League game. Now the first game in the Masters knockout round, and this is the knockout tournament for the Masters. And we had the first game up was Rockers FC going up against Juventus. And of course Juventus was standing on top of the regular season. And Rockers FC were on a warpath because they defeated Juventus 7-2. Right? There was no stopping them. They were just unbelievable on Saturday. And that put them in the put Rockers FC in the final coming up this week on Saturday. That game will be streamed right here on Flexx FM Sports. So we have Rockers FC that in the first game that headed their way on the top of the list for the final. In the second game we had Old Timers FC going up against Attackers FC. Attackers being one of the new teams in the league, and that in itself was another phenomenal game. Back-to-back action. I tell you, both teams were just going at it, and it ended up in a 0-0 tie at the end of regular the regular time for the game. And that went into penalty shootout, and Attackers were able to beat Old Timers in the shootout. I think the score ended up at 5-4 in the penalty shootout. Another great game, and Attackers has gained themselves a spot in the final. So of course the knockout final coming up this Saturday will be Rockers FC going up against Attackers FC, and that will be the final for the knockout tournament. Our featured game on Saturday was a Super League game with United All-Star going up against Inter Florida. Another great game. I tell you, Attackers came out as usual, right? And you know they're called the All-Star for a reason, you know. And they were able to defeat Inter Florida 2-1. But I tell you, the game was tied 1-1 going into almost the end of the game when United All-Star scored a second goal. And I tell you, if you want to see a great game, go back on Flexx FM Sport and watch that game. Now that second goal became a controversial goal. That goal hit the upper crossbar of the American goal post and was followed through by one of the United All-Star players and scored that goal. Officially, it was called a goal. Of course, the referee could not see that from where they were positioned, but of course, we had our replay. And unfortunately, Casa does not have VAR. If they did, that goal wouldn't be allowed, and the score would still stand 1-1. But anyway, it was a victory for United All-Star. That's the way the cookie crumbled, as they say. Yeah. And that is the update for our Casa games this week. And as usual on my program, you know, I've always brought you a special guest, and today is no different. Today we're going to bring you a special guest. So stay tuned after this break, and we'll be right back with our special guest.
GCM Mortgage LLC. Home ownership made easy. Why, you may ask? Hey, that's easy. We'll do the work for you. At GCM Mortgage LLC, we eliminate the lengthy loan process. We pre-approve all borrowers within hours and provide a preliminary approval document to present with your purchase contract. GCM Mortgage LLC offers some of the lowest rates and makes the mortgage loan process as easy as ABC. Quick and straightforward for borrowers seeking a mortgage in the Florida area. Whether you are a first-time home buyer acquiring your dream home or an investment property, refinancing an outstanding loan, or consolidating debt, our profoundly experienced team of mortgage experts can help you take that first step towards a financial solution. GCM Mortgage LLC is conveniently located at 23257 North State Road 7. That's number 200 Boca Road Town, Florida. Our numbers are 954-657-1882. That's 954-657-1882. At GCM Mortgage LLC, we turn your dreams into reality. Start your loan process today.
Hello sports fans, this is Nigel, aka Mr. BMG, and I'm here to tell you about our new sports show hosted by yours truly. Coming soon is Flexx FM Sports Desk with Nigel Blair. We'll be giving you the latest update on the Casa League, the Jamaica Premier League, interviews with coaches, players, and experts in the soccer world. So remember to tune in every Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. right here on flexfm.online and Flexx FM Sports on your YouTube channel. See you there. Coach, let me ask you. This interview is going to be somewhat different than what you're normally used to. Okay. What I want my viewers to know is who is the man behind John Wall. That's that's where we're going today.
You know something, Nigel? Before we touch that to find out who is the man, I like to give my friends roses. So I brought 2 roses. One for Nigel, the other for John.
Well, is that for Mother's Day?
But thank you.
Pleasant surprise.
So, Coach, let's talk about Coach. Talk to me about your early days
As a player or as a coach?
we're gonna start from your we're gonna start from your childhood days. Talk to me.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously most kids in Sweden and Scandinavia play sports. And for me, it's always been about team and a ball of some sort, although I played hockey too. And I tried different alpine skiing, all sorts of stuff. So, but football has been soccer has been the consistent thing for me. I was probably not just playing, but I'm also early days championship manager, then later become the football manager, computer games. So that's kind of got me into coaching early on. So I was picking out and selecting teams and building clubs up virtually back in the early 90s. That's what I did.
Okay. When at what age would you say that you found that football was a special thing for you?
Still get childhood memories of World Cup '86, but probably that made it special, probably World Cup '90, and early on, it was not even called Premier League at that time, but the highest league in England, and being consistently on the TV, that football was more than just a game for me. It was more, it had so many nuances and a depth that it kind of grew on me, became really strong at an early age, I would say.
Okay. And then were you into an academy over there? Because I know on the European side there are a lot of academies.
I think Scandinavia has been a little bit late with the academy system. I think more of a grassroots semi-professional club. I actually quit early on because I was better in hockey.
That's football on ice.
And I made an early debut in the first team, and yeah, it was kind of like you have to make a choice. And I was at the age of 15. I made that choice, unfortunately, but I picked up the coaching as a 20-year-old. Yeah.
Okay, and how was that for you transitioning from soccer? Did you coach hockey also, or you started coaching football?
Now, football's always been the number one thing. Even though I played hockey and was better at it, looking back at it, football was more of a passion than hockey was. So I just picked up coaching from an early age of 20. I coached my younger brother.
Okay.
And he quit after having me as a coach after a year, a year and a half. That was a good start. But yeah, I always found it really interesting about coaching and actually affect people's lives. A coach can do that.
Okay. Now, during my research, Coach, I noticed that you've managed several different clubs. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, by starting early, you make a ton of mistakes too, but I learned from it. But hopefully, I did something good too. That's perhaps why I'm sitting here. Now, I was recruited to one of the bigger teams in my region, the club family. And I became the head coach for the men's team as a 28-year-old. Looking back at it, I was too young. It's a pretty strong tradition in that club. The club is more than 100 years. And later on after that, I had a year and a half in the first team. Then I was recruited by one of the biggest clubs in Sweden, REGGAE. That United there. And I was fortunate enough to work with a lot of good players that are playing the bigger stages now. But the whole Stockholm area is, you got 4 major clubs, which is REGGAE being one of them.
Right.
Djurgården another one, Hammarby, and then you got BP. It's a metropolitan area, 2.5 million, so it's pretty competitive. And I think that environment shaped me a lot. And got to understand the standards.
Okay, great. Sorry about that.
So, and then after that, moved on to the senior level. I was in one of the affiliated clubs to REGGAE Tab, and made some progress with some players there too. And I went on to Nyköping, and at the same time worked in the Finnish national team.
Okay.
So it was pretty. I'm never gonna be working in the national team and in a club at the same time again. Looking back at it, it was pretty tough to just being on, trying to get points every week and week out, and at the same time adhere to that level. But looking back at it, it was a fulfilling period on playing against some really good teams in Europe. And then last club was in this region, which is Malmö, which is really close to Copenhagen. So I can even see Copenhagen from my living room window. So that's the story.
It's better than your backyard. Seen it.
So,
Okay.
Then you need to know what line you're stepping over. So yeah, I hear you.
I hear you, Coach. Now, after, did you transition into coaching right after your professional career, or you were doing both?
Never had a professional career. I don't think you have to be a horse before you become a jockey. So I want to squash that whole thing that you have to be an ex-player on a really high level.
Right.
I think it might give you some better understanding of certain things, but for me, you actually have to devote the hours to the skill of coaching and the knowledge. And for me, I'm more of a product of 5.5 years at the university.
Okay.
Meaning sports science, leadership, and those kind of things. And I think that has given me a different perspective on coaching than those who are just replicating what their old coaches did with them.
Okay, fine. Now, here's a big question for you. How did you transition from Sweden to the beautiful island of Jamaica?
Yeah, man. No, just kidding. I've been to Jamaica before. Been educating coaches and staff, visited there. I've been fortunate enough to maintain the relationships there. And I always taken an interest on Jamaica and its beautiful potential. So for me, it's been the fact that I've been involved in that area in the past. And then circumstances led to, I got the opportunity to start coaching for Jamaican National.
Okay, so
my question to you, John, if I may, how is it that you're in Jamaica and you're in Sweden? How does that come together for you? Because at some point you're in Jamaica and at some point you're in Sweden. How does that work for you?
better ask my wife. That's a better question for her. But and my two kids. For me, it's more. I'd like to be in. When I'm in Jamaica, I'm devoted. I'm there, and I miss it like crazy when I'm gone too. But for me, it creates sort of a good distance in a way, or kind of being distant from, and create. And seeing players, looking at them. Obviously, you can do that from anywhere in the world right now. But for me, it's a good thing. When I'm in, I devote myself fully. I'm more working like 16 to 18 hours a day when I'm there. And if you ask my wife, I'm probably doing that when I'm home too. But for me, it's kind of like being in between, and it creates clarity. Clarity is the best word I can use it.
My follow-up question to John is the culture of the people in Jamaica and the food and the vibes. How do you find that?
I find it enchanting. But let's just say I'm not isolating myself. When I'm there, it's really full work. But I can put it towards a global reference at the same time. Is this helping process right now, or is it actually not helping? And I think for me, 80% is you need to have a baseline in whatever you do and a standard of performance, and 20% might be cultural context. And for me, I can have an outside-in view, but at the same time, an inside-outside view, if it kind of makes sense. But for me, the vibe and the perspective of life is great, but not always combined with an elite mindset. But I would like to say that not all Jamaicans are like that. Not all Swedes are in a certain way. So I don't want to generalize too much, but the food is great, even though I think you might actually, you don't have to eat chicken like 7 days a week. You can actually mix it off a bit, if I can say it.
But you got some good jerk chicken, right?
Oh yeah, jerk chicken for your breakfast, lunch, and
And chicken all day. So, Coach, let me ask you, what is your philosophy when building a program such as the U20 that you're a part of in Jamaica right now?
Obviously, I would love to go through my practical philosophy, but it has to become JFF's kind of policy. It's not just John Wall doing it. And for me, it's more, there has to be a process leading up to certain players are being selected and who's not. There is a style preference that we need to adhere to. There are time and structure. So it's a lot about, right now I would say I'm more of a culture worker than I'm a coach. I'm building a culture.
Okay.
Which will open up the gateway for players to, I'm not the end station as the U20 head coach. I'm more of a person who's supposed to be, you can be blunt and say shit filter, or you can say someone who's going to mitigate and help the players to make the next steps. That's my role. And whatever the first team coach throws at me and say, oh, we want 5 players from your team. And then I'm going to not be angry and say, that's my end game. That's the role of the U20 coach. And I would say it's about creating a standard that they would be on par, because the best level there is the Champions League. So if are we going to adhere to that, or are we going to have lower standards?
Okay.
And for me right now, it's about the Champions League preference.
Okay. So during your recruiting process, Coach, what are some of the things that you look for in a player?
Generally, personality, but also the fact that they don't have excuses in one way or the next. So in taking that into a football preference, that is, if you're attacking, you're involved in attacking as a team. But if you're defending, you are per definition defending as a team too. I cannot have players, because international football today does not give you the time or the exclusivity to just be a role player in one aspect. You have to be multifaceted nowadays. I mean, there's very few players. You can probably say Lionel Messi is kind of an exception, but he still adheres to a lot of things that the team did not. He's still involved in the defending, but he's certainly, his plus side is obviously in his attacking. But that's that per mil or 0.00001 are able to do that. You want to have a professional career, it's a lot of things you have to do, and you need to be humble enough to actually take those on. And I think that global reference, my perspective, not true, but my perspective, it's been missing in Jamaica.
Okay.
John, my sharp question to you, because I know for a fact that one of the largest youth tournament is done in Sweden, the Goodyear Cup. We've sent teams from Florida to the Goodyear Cup. I think they send one or two teams from Jamaica to the Goodyear Cup. Do you think that situation should be implemented throughout the Caribbean for the young players, so when they get exposed and realize what it's all about, when they come back, they can make that adjustment?
I think you become what you do. And what do I mean with that statement? I think a lot of things in Jamaica has been ornament driven. It's a typical North American thing. I'm just going to be blunt and say that. And what you do, and that's what you become. If you don't compete week in and week out, it's just a short impact, and it's too small of a sample size too. Because when you're in those tournaments, sometimes luck is a factor. Are you playing a lesser opponent in your group, and are you getting the right lottery when you're playing in the next stage? But it's still an impact, but it has to happen on a more regular basis. And that doesn't mean that Europe is always going to be the premium standard, but those players have been more exposed to a competitive environment. They've been trained and educated in a better way overall by people who are really educated, and they are exposed in an environment. If I don't do this, the next player is going to come in and take my spot. I think that fierce competitiveness is still within Jamaica. I think it's still in the US. But I think it's too much. One tournament here is going to make it. No, there's so many things that's going to make it for players. And I think you need to lift it up to the club level, not just on the team level and individual level.
Okay, well said, Coach. Now, Coach, you have given us a lot of information, a lot of our philosophies when it comes to football. Now, our program have a lot of young viewers, and as a coach with your status, what advice would you give to, and I'm talking the younger players, I'm talking from say U8 to U15, what advice would you give them if they are looking to say, okay, I want to be a professional player? What advice would you give to those young players today, Coach?
I can do it in so many ways, but one, play football. Number one, play. Starts with that. Number two, don't try to be someone else that you're not. Allow yourself to be influenced by others, by players who are playing at the very highest level. Devote your time and manage your time in a much better way where you can get lost on your phone or other types of things. It is kind of a calling, but by playing the game means that you're staying in the game and that you're devoting a large majority of your life to that skill and that mindset. Then you might get lucky and actually become professional. But what you should realize is that it's all about being in the game as much as possible, but actually start looking at yourself. And the best three is criticism is the best gift that you can be given. Don't look for the people who are just giving you applause and warmth. Yes, you need that too, but criticism is probably the best place for you to grow. So look for people who are not just giving you applause.
Well done, Coach. Well said. Well said. Quick question. Have you coached here in the U.S.?
I have not,
No.
even though I sound American, but I've been in the U.S. pretty frequently, yeah.
Okay, because we could use some of your knowledge here.
No, the U.S. system, should I have my rant about that now?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, the platform is yours.
Should I show the ugliness? Yeah, the ugliness there. Okay, here's an outsider looking in. By having the consumerism mindset, like that's across the board in the U.S., that's the society, and the customer is always right. Meaning, right now you have parents who think they are better than the coach, and they are saying that they're right. They need to change that whole thing, meaning the clubs and the coaches are right because they are educated in their domain. It means, for me, I would never go to a pilot when I'm on the plane and say, "Hey, you should take that route instead. It's much better." I would never do. But in soccer and football, that's the everyday kind of behavior. And I think it's going to take a generation or two before things calm down. And the fact that it's a continent, it's not a country, makes it a lot harder. But it's that whole change where the clubs are more right and actually are more interested in educating players and put the players first instead of filling their pockets of kids. When U.S. is actually harnessing its true potential, they can become World Cup champions. But until then, if they're more interested in making business and filling their own pockets, they're never going to win. Simple as that.
Well said, Coach. Well took in. And I'm sure my viewers would find that very, very interested. Coach Brown, yeah, any other questions for our great coach here?
The upcoming U20s that you have working with now, what's the plan for them?
It's a 2-year cycle. It means that we have to look into, it's going to sound like I'm a club coach right now, but with the diaspora that you guys have, you have to build a structure that means that we have to scout, assess, and do that on an everyday basis. We have to start at home first, meaning we are looking at the potential of the domestic players and actually guiding them, helping them, and on a frequent basis have camps. Do the 3 sessions or longer camps. It has to be friendly and everything, and it actually has to be treated like a cycle, not just putting the team together, and rah, 2-3 weeks later you're playing the tournament. I'm going to devote the time to actually make it so it's actually players are going to make it in the first team. That's going to be the end result for me, how good I am in that environment as a coach. How many players will make a first team debut for the first national team of Jamaica? It's not how many tournaments or anything that I win, and putting the players on the right path, and that we can actually become even more clear in our identity of our Jamaican national team, how and why we play the way we play.
My follow-up question to that, and this may be my last one, is what would be the requirement for a coach who has the knowledge that you have, or a player to be part of what you're building for the future?
Minute in an environment where it's actually competitive, meaning playing time. You have prerequisites, or how should I say, positional trait that would make yourself more interesting, meaning that there are non-negotiables obviously in football too. It's not just opinions and the objective opinions in general. It's actually, if I'm looking at a striker, can make that kind of thing, is that how do you create space in front of the ball? How do you attack behind? How do you create space for the next player? How often are you involved in re-taking the ball and pressing? Can you actually cover space? So we're probably looking at 39 parts that I'm looking into just for a striker.
Okay.
Okay.
That's right, understandable.
Yeah. Okay, Coach. As we see, time is running out on us here. Quick thing. Let me first to say that as a lover of football and a lover of my country, I want to.
Father, 3 top players that used to be a part of my programs.
I know you had to throw that in, right? We do appreciate the knowledge that you bring into our small island, and hopefully with your help and others. Let me ask you a quick question, Coach. On the coaching staff, how many different coaches you have on your coaching staff, on the senior team and the U20?
Senior staff is obviously the head coach, Eimur Hallgrímsson from Iceland. Myself, Maron Gordon, who's the assistant too. And then you have fitness coach Lamar Morgan. You have goalkeeper coach Gudmundur Hreiðarsson, who's Icelandic too. And then you have an analyst, Kyle Chin, who's based in St. Louis. And not to be forgotten, the whole medical staff, doctors, physiotherapists, massage therapists. But we're not the biggest staff, but we sincerely have to be the hardest working staff around. That's what we're at. For the U20s, still a staff to be built. Myself currently team manager Karen Lumsden Clark, and we have Andrew Seawall, who's the goalkeeper coach. But there's a spot if it there too.
Okay, and we do appreciate what all you guys are doing for our small island, and hopefully we can get the ultimate goal.
I think the quickest way to change a culture is stop using or start using new words. I don't like the fact that you are saying small about Jamaica. Jamaica is bigger than that. Jamaica is per capita probably the country has influenced the Western society the most. music, clothing, lifestyle, and talking about food. So why selling yourself short? And for it's a typical mindset kind of thing. And even for drawing my comparison to my home country is that Sweden, yes, 10.5 million currently. We're still top 10 in the marathon table for the World Cup. Top 10. It's about overperforming and choose the kind of battle you're heading into. Jamaica can choose to become a world beater, but it cannot start from someone labeling that on you. That has to start with yourself. And if there's any kind of legacy I can leave behind, is that Jamaica should be, by their rights, feeling proud of who they are, what they are, and who they do things with, and why they're doing it.
Well, we're very proud.
That's the reason why.
We are a proud nation. Once again, Coach, I do appreciate it. You taking your time out. I know you're 6 hours different from us here. It's night over there. I really, really appreciate you taking the time to come on my platform to share some of your knowledge with my viewers. And I wish you all the best in the future. And, you know, time is against me here on this program. Once again, thank you for being here on Flexx FM Sports Desk with yours truly. And Coach Brown, next time I need you in my studio.
I really appreciate John taking time out to come on the program, but also when they get to the World Cup and all that good stuff, we would like to have him back in a longer program.
We will definitely wanted to have Mr. Wall back on our program, and we will be following your career with with JFF and our football team. So Coach, once again, thank you so much, and until next time, this is Nigel Blair saying see you later.
Yes, thank you.
Recording stopped.